And good morning, good evening, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland, wherever you are. So, love's lost. The 1970s and early 80s, late 70s and early 80s, I lost a lot of friends to AIDS. People I knew well, people I loved. And AIDS was a disease that people looked at you like you were a leopard. And until they really got a handle on it, even the medical profession treated them like leopards. And I was really one of my friends, only friends who didn't, because I knew the science that the only thing that would get me sick was their blood. So I made sure when I touched them, when they were sick, when they were bleeding, all I had to do was wear gloves. And all I had to do was have one of these, like alcohol 100%. Pretty much it. And today's pandemic is pretty much that's it. Gloves, spray, stay 6 feet away. Yeah, it rhymes. But that really isn't what's dangerous. What's dangerous is the lack of love and the over amount of fear. People are scared of things that don't even matter, and people don't even know what's really going on. Now, you can go online and it's there. There's a really good friend of mine who has a show called Dark Journalism. And there's a person, my friend is interviewing named Joseph P. Farrell. Watch a little of this.
Hello, everyone. This is Dark Journalist with a fascinating Part 2 episode with Oxford scholar and Giza Death Star book series author Dr. Joseph Farrell. Now, in Part 1, Dr. Farrell outlined why the push for UFO disclosure has become just a new method of government control. This government has lied about the Kennedy assassination. It has lied about Watergate. It has lied about Ruby Ridge. It has lied about Waco. It has lied, and now all of a sudden, we're going to believe it with UFOs? Count me out. Are we looking at a plan for global control from space that originated 75 years ago with the penetration of the U.S. space program by Nazi agents and aerospace defense contractors? Let's go ask Dr. Joseph Farrell. They set up their getaway plan there, and the rat lines and all the rest of it. Argentina was a central piece of that, but one of the things that you've really discovered is that the technology went with them. Yes. Yeah. And that's crucial. That's crucial. Yeah. Kurt Tank is there. The German aircraft designer is down in Argentina. The Horten brothers are there. Erich Rudel, one of the German Luftwaffe flying aces, is down there. And they're building these Delta Wing jet aircraft for Juan Perón. I put a picture of one of them in one of my books. And
that aircraft is from
1943. Looks like a French Mirage jet in 1947. And we're still building our jet aircraft with straight wings, or maybe a little swept back wing, but not a Delta wing. Right. Again, ahead of the curve. Amazing. And you've pointed that out in relation to Nazi Germany, is that everything from cellular phones to television, they had so much of this technology. The photography was advanced. And in many ways, we're kind of living in the German technology wave world because they had invented all this stuff. Yeah, well, silicon chips, semiconductor chips, little vacuum tubes about
as big as the end of your little fingertip, and the Allied equivalent at the end of the war is 10 times larger.
Wow.
You know, just immense achievement in miniaturization. Television cameras in a shoebox, you know, for that era is something. Just an unbelievable amount of stuff that I think became part of the greatest technology transfer in history from there to here.
Yeah.
Just incredible stuff.
Well, it's amazing because the 1936 Olympics, if you're in Germany, you can see it on television.
You can watch it on television, right? And guess who made that possible for them?
Who?
Philo Farnsworth.
Oh.
The Germans bought license arrangements.
Philo Farnsworth, he was a farmer in the United States in the 30s, and he was a luminescent genius like Tesla. And he was plowing his fields one day, and that's where he got the idea of the electron gun shooting lines across a phosphorescent screen, and that's what a TV screen was before LED screens. And Farnsworth invented many, many more things. And he was pretty much owned by Edison and General Electric and Mr. J.P. Morgan. That's why he went to Germany. And the real issue is not technology. It's not even finance. When we have spent, the United States has spent over $70 trillion within the construct of defense spending, black budget, between 2013 and 2018, $70,000 trillion. And they're going, whining over 1.2 trillion to give healthcare and daycare and a safety net. The United States has no safety net for the public. Bill Clinton got rid of that, and then, good old moron Gore, and his father was very gory. And Gore, too, was a hypocrite and going on about, green, the global warming, blah, 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 blah. This was known. Earth changes were known in 1891. The first Paris Accord was in 1891. And basically that accord said, well, things are going to happen in the early part of the 21st century. We really can't do anything about it. So we're going to basically have a new world order, a fascist, oligarchic state. And World War I and World War II were just vehicles to get us there. And then we had, non-stop war since World War II. And you should go see that Dark Journalist show because it basically does a great job of outlining what's going on, right? And I don't need to continue to play
his patents and brought him over,
amazing,
to Germany to help them build that television network for the Berlin
Olympics. This is
Olympics.
Joseph P. Farrell,
you could
right
watch
here.
The whole thing on these little television
that's Joseph P.
stations
Farrell,
around
Dark
Berlin.
Journalist.
Why was
Tune in to see Dolph on television.
You got Hitler waving in the stand.
And
a young Richard Helms goes up there to interview him, and he's one of the few guys who ever gets access to him. It's a journalist. How about that?
Yeah, Richard Helms. How about that?
Head of the CIA.
John J. McCloy in his boxing Olympics. Lawyer for R.G. Farben, and then after the war, High Commissioner for Germany, and then a member of the Warren Commission.
Wow.
That guy gets around.
Chairman for Chase Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. McCloy, as you pointed out, was one of the signatories on CERN.
Yes.
That is really, we're talking about they're building a whole strata, and the public has nothing. They're completely out of it. I mean, we
They're
know nothing
completely
about
out of it. Yeah.
Yeah. When we look at this, if we take it from that, let's actually go from the 1936 Olympics to now.
Okay.
Let's imagine that those technologists with that fascist leaning said, we can control this whole shebang from space.
Mm-hmm.
And we can control the citizenry with a global control grid.
Mm-hmm.
And that so much of what they put in place, from the V2 rockets into the NASA program, into getting the German scientists over here, into stopping the moon landings from 1972 until 2024. Where are they now? They're pretty close to completing their plan.
Well, like I put it earlier, they may think they're close, and I think they're in a hurry. Like I said earlier, for several reasons. But another reason I need to mention is that they're in a hurry because people are waking up. Right. And they're waking up to the fact that what they want to put into place is not only inhuman, it's anti-human.
That's it.
And they've got a certain window of opportunity. And ultimately, Daniel, again, I think they're going to fail, and fail big time, because when you're in a hurry, you make mistakes.
Uh-huh.
And I think, they may think that they have snookered the world with this COVID thing, but I don't see it. That narrative has fallen apart really fast.
Yes.
And the other problem they have is they want to centralize things, when I think the trend made possible by all this technology is in exactly the opposite direction. So in a certain sense, they're bucking a trend.
Fascinating. That Nazi influence, as you've pointed out, through the Nazi International, in finance, in the pharmaceutical companies, you mentioned IG Farben, Bayer taking over Monsanto, in armaments, in false flag activity, incredible influence of this group building itself into world centers of power, including the United States, almost invisibly.
Well, let's remember something else that circles back to the whole UFO operation thing. And that's something I mentioned in Saucers, Swastikas, and Psyops with Otto Skorzeny. Because
these are books he wrote.
Hitler's favorite commando. He was the commando that rescued Mussolini, put down the Hungarian rebellion, and on we could go, who made it out of Nazi Germany after the war and established his headquarters in Madrid, in the same building that the CIA worked out of. But Skorzeny...
Kind of a coincidence, right?
Kind of a coincidence there, yeah. Skorzeny wrote at some point during the war that he had seen something truly incredible. And what I think he saw was either the Bell or some project associated with it. And he said that this technology, whatever it was that he saw, gives the perfect opportunity for a Sonderkampf, for a special warfare, for a psychological operation involving that technology, and in his words, operating behind enemy lines. And if you look at the whole German approach to psychological warfare, their word for it at that time was Weltanschauungskrieg, worldview warfare. Not just psychological, but worldview. In other words, something designed specifically to change the basic cosmology of everyday man or everyday woman, just to change it. So again, I think he's alluding to the use of advanced technology in a psychological warfare type of operation. And again, we're back to UFOs with Lou Elizondo and so on and so forth. That's the same type of thinking. And to me, it's interesting that the first person on the record that I'm aware of that thinks in that fashion is Otto Skorzeny, a Nazi.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Well, I mean, you've pointed out that when it comes to our space program, those guys were deep, deep, deep into the moon landing piece, in that actually the specialty for the scientists who were working was not rocketry.
Right.
Their specialties involved this kind of physics around the bell.
Plasma physics, yeah. You're thinking of Kurt Davis.
Yes.
Kurt Davis, Dr. Kurt Davis. Well, this guy is the Nazi's Nazi because, as I point out in the books,
He works as for the U.S.
Davis
government.
was part of the von Braun paperclip team that was brought and bivouacked in El Paso, Texas, although they're doing their work in New Mexico. Well, after Roswell, a short time after Roswell, Army G2 counterintelligence had learned that Davis had denounced a co-worker of his in 1942 to the...
Anyway, so you get the picture. What's going on with us has been going on for at least 150 years. And if we take it all the way back to Albert Pike, it's more than 200. So this is a long game that's being played. And if you go to the Georgia rocks, right, the stones there that were just appeared, and on it were etched into the stone what needs to happen to the human race. And it said that the human race has to go down from the 7-8 billion down to 500 million by 2030, in the next decade. So how would you do that? You would do it with nuclear war and a pandemic. And unless we wake up and realize that the only thing that can change this is love, not any kind of war or violence, or we have to forgive ourselves. We all have to forgive ourselves. And I've known this my whole life, but, I'm like all of us mud puppets. We are steeped in self-loathing, steeped in hate and fear, and steeped in the angst of our egos, right? Once you have love in your heart, once you are realize that it's all about love's co-creation and serving your neighbor, your fellow man, the we in me, that we are all our relations, that every tree we cut down, we're killing ourselves. Every river we pollute, we're killing ourselves. And basically, this planet is here as a test bed, a laboratory, to see how we're going to do. We are the reflection of the burning bush. The burning bush sees its work in progress in us. And if we continue in this direction, now I've spent my whole life not to be an A-lister or be famous, but to serve. And of course, I'm a human being, so I have my foibles. I would say 40% of every day I'm a moron. 60% of it every day I'm attempting, working on being consciously aware. Let's see. Hello there, Ellie. I thought we were already dead. Didn't we die in 2012? And we are walking through our hell of the records. Yes, we are. Very, very astute, Miss E. E, right? E. Ellie Erison. And Ellie, if you want to talk to me about your insights, I would love to hear from you. Anyone, just get a hold of me at thedudeawake42@gmail.com, right? And so Ellie is truly right on here. Basically, in the year 2000, the clock stopped, right? And they tried to reset it, and we have the illusion of reset. Then in 2001 and 9/11, we had 9/11, and that was the psychic shock to send us into fear, anxiety, and self-loathing of war. And then when 2012 occurred, what happened was the Piscean Age ended. Not us, but the Piscean Age. Now, we who have been in that Venn diagram, that Aquarian Age kind of came on the scene in the 1890s, but really kicked in 1947. And in 1960, I forgot when it was, 4 or 5, there was the song, "It's the Age of Aquarius." That was like announcing it. And so from that point on, we were in a Venn diagram. The Piscean Age was going out, the Aquarian Age was coming in. 2012, end of the Mayan calendar, was the end of the Piscean Age. And we are now 100% in the Aquarian Age. What is the Aquarian Age? Aquarius is the water bearer, right? Pouring the water. And moving water is 2 things: knowledge and understanding and truth. I guess that's 3 things, but that's like in that one category. And the other one is love. So we are now in a loving, understanding time. Well, the Piscean old farts are just hanging on from by their fingernails, as you heard from Joseph there, Joseph P. Farrell, and Daniel of Dark Journalism. Those guys, they're rushing. We are going through this. The pandemic is supposed to, shock and awe us, put us, oh, what are we going to do? And yes, it is a virus. But what is a virus? Folks in, virology and endocrinology don't even have a clue. At the very best, you could say that viruses are a toxin, a foreign body that enters our body that our immune system doesn't know what to do about it because it isn't a biological thing, meaning it's not alive. It's not like a germ or a bug, right? It's a chemical. It's basically RNA, and so the vaccines we have for viruses are almost irrelevant. They can, again, most of the pharmaceuticals just hide the symptoms, right? All that's got wrong with me, all the drugs I'm on are just hiding the system. They're not really dealing with the problem, right? And that is the biggest problem of our civilization, is that we never deal with the problem. We just deal with the symptoms, right? And the real problem is the inability for each of us to love, and what people construe as love is just a hormonal expression, right, of sexual drives to reproduce. That's not love. Love is when I talk about love, I talk about all the people I've loved in my life. And most of that love was always sacrifice. I was always sacrificing because I love people. And no one was able to do what needed to be done for those folk. But I did my best to do that. And everyone, and every day, and every way, I take the piece of the earth and make it stronger through my love. And my love is not the biological sexual love. When I was in 3rd grade, I moved into an area that the school system had totally changed. It had been a very rural farming kind of thing, almost a little house on the prairie. And then it kind of got gentrified. Rich folk moved in. And so I don't know who did it, but someone got the great idea to we have this opportunity where we're going to change everything. Let's try and do the best we can, right? So what had been the high school became the grammar school, and all the kids went to that grammar school, where they had been to lots of other different grammar schools. So they all got to that. Then they built a brand new middle school and a brand new high school. And basically, once you hit sixth grade, you were on a teaching curve as if you were in high school. And we were taught biology, the kind of biology that I learned in high school when I went to prep school was the biology I learned in sixth grade. And then when we went to seventh and eighth grade, we were taught this thing called hygiene and public health, right? About nutrition and mostly about sex, on how not to get pregnant. And they taught us how not to get pregnant without having to wear a condom or take birth control pills or IUDs or any of that. And pretty much you can do it. And I've said this many times. Women, this just shows misogyny of our culture, because to make women so they can't get pregnant, they have to take all these really nasty chemicals and screw with their hormone system. Whereas men, their sexual organs on the outside of their body, and their testicles dangle down. And now the sperm modality depends on your blood type and whether your little swimmers like it warm or cold. So if they like it cold, you wear tighty whities and have the boys right up against your body, and that slows the sperm modality down by 92%. Now, if your swimmers like it warm, you wear boxers and have them swing in the breeze, and that too drops their sperm modality by a great deal. Then the other thing is women ovulate. It's called a period, in a period of time. So if you can read a calendar, you can work out. If the woman says, "Okay, I'm normally have my period here," you can figure out when they're ovulating, right? And so you put a little circle around about a 7-day period, and you don't inject any kind of sperm in that neck of the woods. And the next thing is when women ovulate, they give a discharge. And so if you really shouldn't have sex like indiscriminately, right? You should have sex with someone you care about, right? Not just, you get drunk and have it at, after you go home from the bar. That's, hooking up. Not really a good idea. It's an empty waste of time. Right? Might as well masturbate. That's better. It's more satisfying than hooking up. Is Earth a spaceship? Well, Earth is a planet, but our moon is a spaceship. When you saw Star Wars, right? Good old George Lucas sat at the feet of Joseph Campbell for a year, and Joseph told him story after story. Joseph Campbell was a great, one of my great teachers, and also, showed me how to be a griot. And so Joseph told George Lucas all these stories, and George just sat scribbling down, and that was straight up his script. And did George Lucas even give Joseph Campbell even a mention? Like, thanks, Joe, for the idea? No. And so the Death Star is our moon. Because there's all kinds of very interesting things about it. First of all, when the boys and the guys did land on the moon, but it was still a hoax because they didn't use, it wasn't as the script, as the TV picture showed. That isn't what happened. The LEM itself was a gravomagnetic propelled device, because if you ever watch in 72, 70, the last three, they had a camera pointed at the LEM and they showed it taking off, right? Now, if it had a rocket engine starts up, burns, and if you ever watch any missile take off from the pad, there's a big blast and the fire and the smoke, and the rocket ain't going nowhere. but then it slowly gets going and slowly gets going, and then it goes real fast, right? Well, that isn't what the LEM did. The LEM, like a light switch, went wing, shot away, right? And that is not a rocket engine, right? That is a gravomagnetic device, right? And so they didn't, that big Saturn got everything going towards the moon, but they didn't have a big enough rocket to put enough gas. I mean, the LEM would have had to be 4 times as big if they were going to have the fuel to get off the moon. So anyway, they were up there. So they did go there, but they did not really tell the story of why they went there. When those guys went there, they didn't just collect rocks. They collected archaeological specimens of life that had existed there, right? And the other thing about it was, so, these guys go on the moon, right? And then they go back home. And when they come out of the space thing, they're wearing masks and everything. You can't even see them. And then they put them in a Winnebago on the thing. And then they're quarantined for 3 weeks. Well, their brains were messed with. I mean, they have the technology. When I was at Duke University, and I stumbled onto this entity called the SEAL Corporation that were, doing research at Duke to make a super soldier. Let's see. Why do I feel like in a stasis on a spacecraft viewing my Akashic records? Well, because, Miss E, a number of things. First of all, we're swimming in this swill. We have been sprayed, chemtrails have been sprayed in our atmosphere since the 50s. And those things aren't just there to, try to irradiate heat. No, they are a mechanism that uses to control us. And same with all those microwave antennas all over the place, those big tall towers, they're there to control us. All of the, public and social media that we are, we're all watching, and everything we eat, the air we breathe, the water we drink. And, the FDA, they don't protect us. The, EPA, I mean, these were all good ideas. People tried, but, our government is owned by corporations. The corporations just don't bribe. It isn't that we just have the best, politicians money can buy. It's, if you look up in a dictionary, fascism, it is basically what, let's see, let's ask Mr. Google what fascism is. Come on, turn on. Come on. There we go. Let's hit that and hit this. What is fascism? I thought Mr. Google's voice would tell us, but it says here, fascism is a form of far-right, authoritarian, ultranationalism categorized by dictatorial power, forcible suppression of opposition, and strong regimentation of society, and an economy which came to prominence in the early 20th century. Meaning, capitalism is state, is a capitalist state. Capital, money, investment is the organizing structure of the capitalist state, right? Communism is state capitalism. The state controls the capital and the economic structure. Fascism is when the corporations themselves, not just the influence of investment and capital and, that kind of, what was that economist's name? But anyway, it's not that. Fascism is when the corporations run the government, just as Mr. Google said, Come on. Where's that button? Just put in this idea of capitalism. Corporations. Fascism is a form of far-right, authoritarian, ultranationalism. So ultranationalism means ultra-corporate, characterized by dictatorial power, corporate power, forcibly suppressing and strong regimentation of society. So that's what we're living in right now. And they're going, these supply chains are there's a real problem with supply chains and no one wants to work. Well, why don't they want to work? Because they had a whole year to stay at home and realized they hated their friggin' job. And people are starting to wake up. And they're going, what can I do? And Miss E, you just said you feel, I have played most of those roles, good and bad, ugly, another version of myself. Well, as I said before, 40% of my day I'm a moron, and the other 60% I do my best to be my best. That's all you got to do. Yes, you can easily fall into that, and yes, many times I have been all of that. I spent 14 years in a corporate world. And I thought I was getting over in that I didn't work that much. They paid me a lot of money, and I was torturing ultra-rich people to get them signed contracts. I was using my little abilities to sway people's feelings, And I thought, well, fuck it. These guys are just killing each other. Why don't I just facilitate that, But I got 220 pounds overweight and died, so I was killing myself. I was a good lab rat. I was showing, anyone who could observe, but no one did. I was being the example. That's pretty much me my whole life, trying to do the right thing, but not trying to tell people or have a big rally. I did all of that in the 60s and 70s, but, and I was a social activist, helping people, not marching, but helping people in the 80s. I helped stop nuclear power. I helped stop investment in nuclear weapons. I helped stop, I helped house people in abandoned buildings using the Homestead Act of 1876. And that's what I'm asking you guys to go up and do is, go do stuff to make things better. You don't have to, change it immediately. And that's what I hate the fact that political structures constantly take words that I would use and then make it so like liberal. You know what a liberal is? Someone who feels guilty about being sexist and racist, right? Progressive. What is progressive? Everything left behind, No child left behind means every child left behind, War on drugs, meaning we're bringing drugs into your neighborhood and bringing war to you. So, yes, you're right. We are, bathing in this, and but we don't get woke awake. That's what Jesus was talking about, being awake. Buddha, side of the road, glowing in divinity of meditation. And, the traveler goes, wow, are you God, man? What are you? And Buddha looks at him and goes, no. Oh, what are you, man? And Buddha replies, I'm awake. not woke, awake, conscious awareness, I am. Those two prayers, conscious awareness, I am, and conscious intent, I am. You can change the friggin' world, you know? And all you have to do is change the world in your little neighborhood. You don't have to change it all over the place. And, that little thing, think globally, act locally. I mean, that is true. So start a coffee shop, start a salon, start, doing things with other people that can then change other people. And the best tool for that, and I've always worked within this structure, is art, music, drawing, theater, film. Not to be an A-lister, no, to be, make that piece of the in what really, the only thing that exists is love's co-creation. We, as avatars here on Mother Earth, what we are, the people who are first peoples, who are artists in the first person, the guys who were scratching the pictures on cave walls, those are the people who change the universe, right? So what's me, so I have played most of those roles, Sensei. The good, the bad, the ugly. Aren't you another version of myself? Of course, because we are all our relations, right? We're all, this is, what are you, E? What you are is the decider, moment by moment. You can say, I'll be really good and then screw up. Well, that's pretty much going to be because we're friggin' morons. But if we do our best to do our best, we will do less bad things. And if we spend our life doing that, and you can have fun doing that. I was known as the minister of fun for, at least 4 decades because I knew I could not motivate people unless it was fun. Like when I started a real estate business in Long Island, way out east on the North Shore and parts of the South Shore. And I was doing good. And then I realized they were building a reactor. Now, I worked in the nuclear industry. I worked in national laboratories. I knew what that technology was very thoroughly. And I had friends who were working at Brookhaven, that's a national laboratory. And so I had access, right? So I went over to Shoreham and said, hey, I'm a filmmaker, and I want to tell your story. And so they let me in with a camera. And instead of putting me in front of the camera, I put my mother, who looked like a queen. She was royalty, my mom, and sharp as a razor blade. And she just walked around the place and she knew nothing about nuclear power. I didn't tell her anything, but she looked around and said, this place is a mess. You're building this very sophisticated machine. And it was right. It was like no one cleaned anything. There was crap everywhere, garbage everywhere. And she opened up a refrigerator and it was full of vodka bottles and beer. And she said, you're building a nuclear reactor and this is right. And then she ran hospitals. She understood X-ray. And so she went into where their X-rays, because every joint of that piping had to be X-rayed, and she started looking at the X-rays and said, these are all the same X-ray. You are falsifying the information that's supposed to be in the process of licensing this reactor. Anyway, I made a video, put it on Manhattan Cable, sent it to the NRC, and that's when they freaked out and started having hearings there, which brought out a lot of public people, which then educated a lot of people. I mean, the utility was paying off people's property taxes, and they built new high schools. So nobody was, everyone thought the utility company was the best thing since sliced bread. But once they started seeing that if this thing blew up, everyone was going to die. I mean, Long Island had 250,000 people to the east of the plant, and there were only 2 highways with 6 lanes to get 250,000 people off of an island, meaning there was only, and you had to go right by that plant, right? So anyway, I spent 5 years organizing the folk, and it started with 4 grandmas. They had been fighting Wilco for years, right? And kept it down to just Look, I wanted to build 12 reactors and sell a lot of electricity anyway, and have the Price Anderson Act pay for everything. And I came in and met the girls and said, listen, girls, you're doing a great job, but trying to organize with these other morons who are, this, that, and the other thing. I mean, they tried to join this thing called the Shad Alliance, and they had things like, a blind albino amputees against nuclear power. I mean, no, it's like too many other agendas. Let's just do one thing. What's the one thing we want to stop? Stop the Shoreham power plant. And that's when I got the nom de plume of the Minister of Fun, because I made our adventure of stopping the plant into fun. Meaning we started a thing called, it was a local, Long Island Lighting Company, and we started our own local, Long Island Life community. And we were out in front of that plant 24/7, right? And the first day we did it was Valentine's Day, and it was snowing and raining and sleeting and cold, and I did not prepare too well. All I had was garbage bags to protect us from the weather. And we had about 5 of my cadre out there, and we knew the reps. So when people would stop, what are you guys doing out here? And, basically, we would give them rep. And some people would just say, you're crazy, or drive away. But this one guy stopped by in a limousine and rolled out, what are you guys doing out here? It was Billy Joel. And he said, I just bought a house just right down the cove. And it's a beautiful place. I said, yeah, you're going to be dead. When in 3 years, when they turn this thing on, it's going to blow up, and see you later, bye. And so he basically bought the property kind of right next to the plant, so we didn't have to stand on the side of the highway. And he stuck a wedding tent there, so we didn't have to be in the rain. And he put 6 Lazy Boy recliners, so we had someplace to sleep, because we were there 24/7. And he said he would come and play music whenever he could. And he did, like maybe 4 or 5 times a year. And he never really kind of knew. So we told everyone, Billy Joel's going to play music for us, Mr. Piano Man. But we never told anyone. So every weekend, we would have a big bunch of people wanting to hear music. But we had tons of other musicians playing music and dancing and educating ourselves on what nuclear power was, so we could tell all our other neighbors. So basically, in 5 years, we changed the political structure of Long Island, which was just what I read about fascism. We turned it into the people's power. And we did it by having everyone feel good about each other, and then loving each other, and then realizing that they were their neighbors, right? And that was a hard time, in the 1980s, Ronald Reagan, it was, wars everywhere, really crappy things going on. But that was a good thing, And there were a lot of other good things that came out of that. And and what you're saying, E, is very true, but it doesn't have to always be that way. Moment by moment, you can do good things and change things. Yep. And, a lot of us, like me, I've had 6, oh God, no, I'm mad. I've had 20 different lives, meaning did different careers, different things. I died 6 times. And the last 3 times, I had my life review, right? And, the life review was like, I was like getting pats on the back. You're doing a good job, but go back. If you go home now, you're going to be thrown into the wearing blender of karma, and God knows where you pop out. But if you stick at what you agreed to do and do your best, you're not perfect. You don't have to be perfect. Just do your best. You will be able to ascend. You move that step forward. And that's what our bodies, we are not our bodies. This is just an avatar. Even our soul, we are in our soul. Our soul is basically the server for our Akashic record. What we are is spirit. If you read the New Testament, you read what the morons wrote out of Jesus' mouth. He never uses the word soul. He always talks about spirit. And what is spirit but love's co-creation? And what is love but the creator of all things, the burning bush? And when Moses asked the burning bush what his name was, he did not say, I am who I am, because that's what Popeye is the only one who says that. The burning bush said, I am a work in progress, and you are my mirror, my reflection. I am gauging what I am through what I am watching you do. Conversely, the Old Testament, a lot of people, the Old Testament God is this mean, creepy dude. Well, that's because we were mean, creepy avatars. So we have now, moved into the Aquarian age, is getting what you need through understanding of love, not getting what you want through violence. That's the Piscean worldview. Now, there are a lot of people who have been damaged by that worldview, and that's what this is the real world. You got to pay your bills, and you can't be a Pollyanna, and you can't. No, sorry about that. Everything you're talking about, paying your bills and worrying about politics, and that is illusion. That's ego. Let's see. So, and I've been assisting you guys to go into state, right? And we've been talking now 51 minutes and 29 seconds. So let's try a little going into state. So the two prayers that I'm pushing this month is, you take a big breath in your nose, fill your lungs as much as you can, keep filling them up, and then go conscious intent I am, conscious intent I am, conscious intent I am. And that was all in one breath. And before we do it again, I want you all to think of something that you can focus that intent on. And I would say the best thing to focus your intent on is love's co-creation. You in co-creation with love. Okay? So put that in your head, and you're going to say, conscious intent I am. That intent is to be love's co-creation. Conscious intent I am. That intent is love. You are love's co-creation. Conscious intent I am. Next one is conscious aware I am. Conscious aware I am. Conscious aware I am. Right? So, and that awareness is a 360 around you. So you can feel, if anything bad comes your way, you see it 3 blocks away, and you can get out of its way. So it won't affect you at all. And then I have my 3 little rules that I rule my life on. Doctor, do no harm, right? Do not do anything that causes harm, period. Number 2, do not get involved unless you have a workable exit strategy and you're going in to get the innocence out of harm's way. And number 3, do not get involved unless you can learn something to make an everyday and every way the love in all our lives. So those are the 3 motivating things, and the conscious I am, and conscious intent I am, and conscious awareness I am. Those are the tools. Those are the prayers. So, and do not, Miss E, do not really, do not self-loathe. Do not punish yourself. Just do better. My second wife always said, saying you're sorry isn't good enough, right? Just do better. And the fact that I always did my best period, for her and everything around her, I always did my best. So she never had to worry. I always had her back. I always loved her unconditionally. I never judged her, I just loved her. And that's why, and she was a fierce warrior. I mean, she was a, Aries Virgo, big time. And so she, and she had a hard life. All these people go, oh, I have such a hard life. My mommy and daddy only give me $5,000 a month. Oh, how am I going to pay my bills? Oh, I hate doing things. Oh. No, this girl was in the street. Her parents died, both of them, when she was 16, and all she had was her, Catholic high school uniforms, and she built a giant empire. She was not ruthless, but very tough. But around me, not so much, because she never had to worry. Yes, I could be a moron. I remember the first time we made love. I met her, and for 30 days, called her every day. I met her, and we had an amazing evening. We walked all around New York City. I took her to all the places and just, tried to wow her with my dudeness. And she was pretty wowed. And by the time the sun came up, we were walking towards her apartment on Park Avenue. And we got to the door and said, well, the sun's coming up. I have to go to work. But it's, I don't have to go to work for another 2 hours. Why don't you let me come up to your kitchen and let me make you breakfast and we have some coffee, which is like the secret handshake of what, hey, let's have some, let's make love, baby. And she just handed me her business card. She said, call me this afternoon. So I said, what time? She goes, 4:00 is best time to call me. So I called her at 4, and she answered the phone, and we talked for about 2 hours. And I said, how about that cup of coffee? And she said, call me tomorrow at 4. And I called her every day for 30 days, right? And thought about no one else, no other woman, nothing else. And on the 30th day, I was saying to myself, okay, I'm going to call her. And if I don't at least get a cup of coffee, I'm moving on. And the phone rings. Right? And I go, hello. And it was her. She goes, where are you? I said, well, I'm kind of over in my abandoned building. She goes, how fast can you get over here? I said, I'll run all the way. And I did. I ran all the way, about 30 blocks. And they had these nice Korean shops along 14th Street. And I bought a big batch of flowers, and I hadn't eaten all day. And I was running, and there was Paulie's Pizza, which is a very good pizza. So I was just like, the guy in Saturday Night Live. I bought Saturday Night Fever. I bought 2 slices of pizza, pulled them in half, and started eating them because I needed some substance. And so I made it to her place. I hit the button. She buzzed me up. I took the elevator up to her place. I walked down the hall, and her door she had left unlocked. I went in, and there were Boudic candles and a path of rose petals to her bedroom door. And I closed and locked the door, and I walked. Before I even went through the door, there she was on her bed, just in the most amazing, position. And she just kind of sniffed, and she goes, did you just have pizza? And I'm like, 20 feet away from her, and she goes, did you just have pizza? And I said, yep. I hadn't eaten all day, and I ran all the way here, and I had this big armful of flowers, and I said, I brought these for you. And she goes, oh, that's so sweet. So what I want you to do is go out to the kitchen, and you'll find a bunch of vases, put water, put the flowers in there, leave them in the sink, and then go in the bathroom. And I bought you a toothbrush. Brush your teeth thoroughly, and then take a shower, and then brush your teeth again. And I did. And it was amazing that she looked even more amazing when I finished all of that. And we had the most amazing evening, and I stayed at her side for the next 8 years. and I have never loved anyone like her. I've loved other people, but she has a little place in my heart. And every time I talk about her, I kind of tear up because we were put together spiritually, or we had the same spiritual teacher in the Akashic space. And she was damaged, and I wasn't so damaged, but she was a very special person, and they wanted her to be fixed, and they knew love was the only thing that was going to fix her, so they hooked me up with her. Now, I was only supposed to do that for about a year and then move on because that was my MO. And we spent 8 years together until and they kept telling us, we just want you guys, you're overstating the time. We have things for you guys to do, you know, you need to, and they said, well, you have free will, so you can stay together, but there's always a cost. And the cost was her dying of cancer and a heart attack. And it came on like that. She'd never really taken a vacation. I'm a traveler. I took her to Tortola, and we had an amazing time there for 3 weeks. And we came back, and we were on this airplane, and everyone was sneezing and coughing, and we both got sick. I stayed in bed. She had to run her business, right? And I got better, and she got sicker, and then she got pneumonia, but she still wouldn't stop, and she kept working, and then she collapsed, and I took her to the hospital. The guy said, your wife has cancer, and she had her heart is unstable. We don't know what to do with it. And she was in the hospital for a day, and she had a heart attack. And I was there, and she died in my arms. And then she came back to life. Now, I'm just giving you the short story. And in one of my novels, I have it done very, I wrote it. And one time, I'll read you that story. And it'll probably take 20 minutes to read it to you. But I gave you the short stick on that. So you don't understand about love until you lose it, right? And most people never, ever know what love is because they throw it away before they lose it, right? They get angry at somebody, or they get jealous, or they get whatever, and they split up. They do not learn how to love the person. So my second wife was probably one of the hardest people you'd ever want to. And everyone said, "How could you live with that woman?" Or, "Boy, you're beat. Oh, you're whipped. You're this." And I said, no. And I love her, and I do, and I still do. And years later, so that she died in '87. So that's a few years ago. 97, 2007, 17, almost 40 years. And she's still in my heart. So I've had a number of, committed relationships since then. And all of those women, not all of them, 3 of them understood. And yet they couldn't, all of them most of them were jealous of a dead woman, right? And the other 3 who were truly great women, and they were all great women. Every woman I've been hooked up with, I hate using that term, but been, in a loving relationship with, were great women. There was not a single woman in my life who I would say, that woman was a bitch. Oh, I hate her, blah, blah, blah. No, I love them all, right? And a good number of them are still my good friends. Right? But in that period of about 15 years, those women got attached to me in a way that they just wanted me to be for them. And I was a committed guy. But that part of, and all the other people I really loved were in my heart. And so and that's what makes me who I am. I have, at least 100 people in my heart that I love, right? That love is there. That love was co-creation. And when I think of all those people and when I go in state, I can be with them like that, right? And I don't miss them per se, because they're in my heart. But when I think of the loss, it makes me want to cry. And crying for me is not a bad thing. It's not a sign of weakness. It's water. And what is water but truth, knowledge, and love? So when I cry, I'm crying truth, knowledge, and love. Right? So that's why I can cry relatively easily. In my past lives, I'm actually kind of a young soul. And so all of my past lives have been interesting ones. They weren't. I had two that were, most of our lives are. I mean, all of our lives are there for us to learn something, and not always are those lives like earth shattering. They can be mundane or just X amount of years, but those lives are mostly given to us to learn about patience, grace, and appreciation. And so this life, I agreed to do a number of things, and that's why I've been given, 9 lives like a cat. And my deaths have been nothing, really. I mean, I died of a heart attack, but when I, came back, and I was in a hospital, and they did all those chemical, blood tests that prove whether you had an arrhythmia or really did have a heart attack and damaged your heart, or they did that test, and I said, well, we can't find anything wrong with your heart, so it must have been something else. It portrayed itself as a heart attack, but it wasn't. And yes, you died, and you came back, and we have no idea what that was. And I've had a number of friends who had similar things, meaning they were in the groove, they were always right on it, and then they took that for granted, and then to wake them up, they had an aneurysm or a heart attack or this or that or a stroke. And once they ended up in the hospital and they came out of it on the other side, and then they were tested, they were found, the medical model couldn't tell them what was that caused that, and they were okay. And if they learned that lesson, then they didn't get sick again. So me, I'm like I said, 40% of every day I'm a moron, and the other 60, I'm doing my best, right? So that's why I haven't died when I died, but that's why I still do die, because for me to get to do what I've agreed to do in love's co-creation, I got to do better than 40, 60. I got to do like maybe 3% moron and 98%, 7% doing my best. And so I'm working towards it. That's what I'm doing now. That's why I'm doing this YouTube. Not to be a famous, rich, blah blah blah, ace, blah blah. No, I don't need to be famous. What I need is to be there for you guys. And that's why I tell you, you want to talk personal about. I mean, I see you're doing a very good job here of talking deep and being. And that's what I love about the cadre. Every time we do a chat and people chat, there's always at least 1 to 5 people really talking on about what I'm talking about, and not about like, oh, me, it's all about me, 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 me. No, they're talking about the we and me, right? And what does Miss E have to say here? Is it not true we only have so many heartbeats, and it is before we come back or come here in this reality. Yes. Everything is, I mean, the linear world is illusion, but we're in it. So, yes, everything is portrayed as a linear experience. But if you go into state and get, practiced and comfortable with being in state and being in your superconscious mind, your sanctuary, that's when you can, have feet in all three worlds and be awake to all of them, right? And realize that this illusionary world is the most ephemeral one that doesn't exist, right? But it is a valuable thing because it is a sandbox. It's a place for us to practice, to work on doing our best, right? Thank you, Divine. I love you too. I love you all. And every day and every way, my prayers are always with all of you. Everyone who watches this channel and everyone who doesn't, my prayers are for all of you, right? And I'm not giving up on any of you, because we're all gonna, get on the bus, go home, be part of the band, and make the difference. And that's what's important. Right now is a great opportunity to really make a difference. And if you are a student of history, you see that this occurs, And so in every day and every way, you take the piece of the earth and make it stronger. Do your best to be your best, and don't beat yourself up when you're a moron, it's just become more aware, conscious, aware I am. That's what the awareness is, to get better and better. Oh, I have to move a little bit. I love you all. So here we've been on for an hour and 12 minutes. I have to move a little bit. I remember last year. I had to get a job and you said go fish. Of course. I just have to be reminded. You started out as a piece of grass. How beautiful. I love grass. I love the way grass smells after it rains. I love the fact you can cut grass and it keeps growing. I love the fact in the deep green, I cleared out this half-acre area so I could drain, because I lived in a bog. And I wanted sunlight to get in there so the insects wouldn't eat me alive. And so I had that 3/4 of an acre covered in stone. It's called Crush Run. There's the big rocks, gravel rocks, the things you put at the base of a road, and then Crush Run you put on top of it, and it's like about that big. And my excavator got a good deal and wanted to store it there, so he covered everything in that rock after putting in French drains, so I have really good drainage. So it took me 10 years, but I got grass to grow on top of the rocks, And my new neighbor, who is like a golf course mowing guy, he came in and kind of mowed my lawn without me asking, and it kind of, he put the blades down too low because he thought it was dirt, but it was stone. So, and he said, "How did you?" He stopped it pretty quick so it didn't hurt equipment. But he said, "How did you get grass to grow on stone?" And I said, "I didn't get it to do anything. It wanted to do it. It did it." And that is you, Miss E. You are that grass that wants to grow on stone. Whatever you want to do, Ellie, you can do it. And you know that. You have a sense of that. But again, you're like me. Every 40% of the day, you're a moron. Just work. Do your best to do your best. And some days I'm pretty good. Some days I'm 80% awake and conscious and doing my best, and only 20% moron. But it's hard not to be a moron when you are a mud puppet. Yep, it's like love can grow on anything. You got it, girl. Yep, that's it. So that's the story. And so, Truly Graceful, that's a good channel to watch. And that, these boys. What's it called? Dark Journalist, right? And now these guys.
Gestapo, and reopened his file, and again cleared it. Okay, and it is true. Davis actually did denounce a fellow by the name of Richard Kramer in 1942 to the Gestapo, and
now Joseph Campbell, this
Davis
guy,
and Kramer were working for the Allgemeine Elektrizitätsgesellschaft.
So, I mean, he knows all this stuff, and he's written tons of books, Joseph P. Farrell. And the thing about that kind of knowledge, it's good to understand it, because when you're awake and when you are doing your best, you can use that to say no to that, right? Now, most people hear that and either say, oh, that's bull crap, or, oh, I'm so scared, I'm not going to do anything. No, those are two things you don't want to do. Because when you say, oh, that's bull crap, that's basically saying, oh, I'm scared, I'm not going to do anything. But you don't have to march and that unless it's really something local that will make a change. Remember the 3 rules. Doctor, do no harm. Don't get involved unless you have a positive exit strategy and you're going in to save or help or get the innocent folk out of the way. And number 3, don't do anything unless you can really learn something from it. So use those 3 rules. Be conscious intent, conscious aware, and do your best in the service to love's co-creation. You got it. That's all you got to do. And you'll be growing a lot of grass on your stones. Right. Neutral. Right. And that is you have to really be neutral. You have to have conscious intent, because otherwise something will set you off and you won't be neutral. The other thing is believe in nothing. Only have faith in love's co-creation. And be aware of your 360, so you know what's all around you, right? And so being neutral is that place you need to be ready to be active. When you see that shit coming your way, you either get out of its way or you study it so you won't let it get in your grill. You'll have the mic in your hand, and before it gets too close, you give it the line and you drop the mic and walk away. And the only way you can do that is being neutral in the way I described, by not being prejudiced, by, being aware and having conscious intent. Yep. So that's why, pretty much this is what I talk about on this channel. And I throw in a whole bunch of other stuff, stories and things, because the story gives you that perspective that you can identify with. And it's just not like those guys who are giving a lot of good information. And that's why I play little snippets of their videos on there, because they can give you more information in the shortest period of time. That is a value to give you a perspective on what's going on, so you kind of know what's going on in this little soap opera. That doesn't mean anything. but you need to understand it so you can have the perspective not to get stuck in it, is basically it. Because the way we're wired, we are morons, and unless we are in conscious intent, we are, not going to be aware and be able to navigate in the neutral form, right? Well, that is the best, Fish, that spark of puzzle to make you go, that's what we want to do. Go, not, I know, because I believe. No, sorry, buddy. that's not gonna help. By going, that helps a lot. Right? So I love you for that, Fish. And I love you, Ellie, for your persistence of, even though you've been let down a tremendous amount, as we all have, you're still not giving up. That is the sign of being part of the cadre, right? And I'm old school. I'm still thinking of getting the bus and putting everybody on it and taking the band. That's great. But since we're all over the planet, most of the cadre is from everywhere. Europe and Australia, New Zealand, Japan. They're everywhere. So, not today are we all going to get together. Someday, yes, we'll get on the bus and take the show on the road. But right now, we can all do it in our own, in every day and every way, in our own way, in our own little neighborhoods. Fish, Ellie, get your own cadre, right? You can download all of my shows, put them on thumb drives, and hand them out to people, or have potluck dinners where you see, you could take my stuff and edit it. I mean, you can take my stuff and do whatever the heck you want with it, because I know the energy. So I do these shows as a shamanic ceremony, a digital shamanic ceremony. I'm using the internet to put this energy across the World Wide Web. And I'm affecting every little silicon chip in the works, right? And so are you. You are, you are like the bots of love. The bots of love. I like that. Ellie and Fish, you're the bots of love, Colorado, England here. Yep, I had a sense you were in England. Yep, good to see another family member. Yep. And the other thing, if any of you guys got WhatsApp, you can send me your even if you're in Europe. I mean, my cell phone won't dial Europe, but my WhatsApp will. So, Ellie, you want to talk to me in the old WhatsApp? Send me your phone number, and I'll dial it up, and we can talk. Or again, I'm a big time fan of communicating on email. So that's the Dude Awake 42 at me email. Dude Awake 42 at Gmail, and all lowercase, small words. So just drop me a little line. Here I am. It's Ellie here, and I'll get right back to you. Right now, I'm in a place for the next month that I'll have really. I'm taking care of a friend of mine's farm. They're going off to visit with their kids. So I'm going to be here for a number of weeks, taking care of the place. And so she has really good email, internet, so I can communicate easily now. I used to have to drive 40 miles just to check my email. Now I can just, and that's why you're seeing me do more of these shows, right? WhatsApp, yeah. So get a hold of me at the first. Let's start on the Gmail, the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. We'll talk a little bit on that personally. I mean, I love see both of you guys, Fish and Ellie, have you're really good at the chat, and that you really pick up on the energy of what the subject matter is without, really. I can feel exactly who and what you are through this, and so can you both. Fish, as Fish said, it's good that the family. We're here in the family, So, um, so, but that's what I'm doing with this tool of the faceless email. And now things are going to get weird. I mean, back in December 19, I basically said, kids, hold on to your jock straps because we're going to go for a ride the next 6 years. And so, but it can be a fun ride, We're having fun right here tonight, and we can do more of this, and we can do it in our own neighborhoods, right? We can, build a community of friends and community of neighbors and community of folk who want to serve love's co-creation rather than be merchants of death, My heart to yours, Fish. And you too, Ellie. I love you dearly. So both of you guys, get a hold of me and anybody else who wants to, the dude awake 42 at Gmail. Okay. And if you got a phone number, leave it on that. And if that phone number is a European one, I'll dial that up and we can talk. And I have many, in the last few months, I've gotten a nice group of folk communicating on email and WhatsApp, So that is the story. Morning Glory. Let's see, 126. What time is it actually? It's only 11:30. What else you saying, Fish? I remember that I wouldn't have ever guessed how it would play it out even this far. Yep. So it's going to get weirder. And the more weirder it gets, the more like it's obvious that this is a play, right? And the pandemic thing, I'm not saying that isn't a virus, that isn't getting, I've known people who've died of it, and I'm taking care of some lady who was really sick with it, right? But it's, the flu kills, in 2018, emphysema killed 1 million people in America, So it's how it's being played in the media, right, and used, and that's the difference, right? And the economics, and like when Jojo, the used car salesman, became president, he basically gave $5 trillion to the richest people in the United States, and only about 900 billion to the rest of America, right? And the other interesting thing is that Donald Trump, for the ridiculous buffoon that he is like right about everything. He lies so much, he comes 180 degrees to the point. It's like when Bushy Boy Bush basically started No Child Left Behind. Everything he ever said was the reverse. No Child Left Behind meant every child left behind. And dabbling down on the war on drugs brought more drugs here. The 20-year war in Afghanistan, it was called Enduring Freedom. What was it? But enduring, war and catastrophe and the opposite of freedom. So, yes, the sun has more to do with our weather than anything else, right? The whole solar system's warming up. The moons around the water, the ice moons of Jupiter have now turned into the liquid moons of Jupiter. And the interesting thing about that is that Jupiter is like 20 times further away from the sun than we are. I mean, it's really cold where Jupiter is, and those moons are no longer ice but water. So, yes, global warming's happening, but it has more to do with things that they're not talking about. You know, the burning of coal and oil and fossil fuels is not a good thing. But humans are like a potato chip on Earth. Earth is like the potato chip, and Earth is like the salt on the potato chip. Kind of tasty, kind of zingy. Eat too much of it, it'll kill you. But nothing is as it seems to be, right? And the extraterrestrial, we are some extraterrestrials' lab experiment, and our governments have been totally the whole power structure is not not human or terrestrial in nature. Fascism isn't the human way. Let's see. Let's see. Go up here to Colorado. You've had a mirror effect on me. I put all over the place. Greenland. Let's see. We love you, Sophia. Yep. I mean that all I can be, whatever identity, but I refer to it as her. Yep. That's the other thing. I have no idea what gender any of you guys are until you kind of get a hold of me at, the dude awake 42 at Gmail. When we start talking personally, then you tell me who you are, where you're at, and blah, blah, blah. And we talk about things that are more personal. And I'm very good with that. I can help you out with whatever is ailing you. But as I'm reading the energy of you folk here, you're doing great. You are really awake, and not woke, but awake to the fact that, yes, I'm a moron sometimes, and I'm working better at being better. I'm doing better at being better, And JoJo took that right out of my mouth like a Build Back Better. It's like, why do you do this, you morons? You keep taking the words from my mouth and making them like shit in my mouth. It's like, I constantly, so my novels that I've written this summer, I have bent, spindled, and mutilated the Aryan Anglo-English American language. And, the thing about English is it is a spell. It really is a spell. All those words, when you take the etymology and take them apart, they are all pretty, if you go Google, etymology English as a spell, you'll see some interesting things. And, the right-wing radio, so I, at the Deep Green, I get nothing. No internet, no satellite, only when the gods of the cell phone work do I ever get a phone call in or out. And it's usually when I really, really need it. It's, it's like a miracle. And you have to, guys, go find a book. It's online. You don't have to buy it. You can read it online. It's called The Course in Miracles. Go check that out. And also Mr. Bloom's book on the healing runes. These are two very good tools, right? And I used to love teaching the Course, because the Course in Miracles, it comes in a textbook, workbook, and teacher's, teaching book, right? And I used to teach that course at Pumpkin Hollow, which is the retreat for the Theosophical Society, Madame Blavatsky's Theosophical Society. And those folks are pretty interesting. And there was another place when I was at Cornell, there was a thing called Wisdom's Goldenrod, which was started by, was a guy who taught at Cornell, who was a great philosopher, great writer, His name's Burton. Yes, his first name is not Richard Burton, but Joseph Burton, but Burton. Um, he wrote a book that was quite excellent called Wisdom of the Overself. Right. So there are a lot of people out there who Joseph Campbell's works are amazing. Um, uh, an economist named Catherine Austin Fitz. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of great stuff on the YouTube. I mean, it is, owned by Google, and it is, you're not Googling Google. Google's Googling you every time you use it, but it's still a tool, and you can still use it, and it'll give you an avenue to start, going down the rabbit hole. And you can do it. You have to realize that you are what you are. You are not your body. You're not your soul. You are the decider. That's why you have a free will. You do not have to do what the oligarch tells you. Now, you don't have to like spit in their face. I mean, I went to a seminary. My godfather was a cardinal. I was expected to be, a rocket scientist for the Pope. And they said I had, my whole life, I've had the most exquisite education, and I refused to matriculate, and I kept being put into great facilities of learning. And what I would do, I would find the best teachers, instead of being just that electrical engineer or this, medical doctor or the other things I was studying in universities. No, I went and found the best teachers, and I got myself into school. I went to Cornell. Cornell, one of my best friends got me. She was running who goes to school there and who works there. So she just got me in there to get me out of my funk in New York. But when I went to Duke, when I went to Juilliard, when I went to Columbia, when I went to the New School, when I went to Trinity in Ireland, those were all places I was sent to study. And I studied at a number of really, really fine seminaries. And they were small, so they're not well known. There was a great seminary in Garden City, Long Island, run by the Maryknolls. And when I was, from first, I got beat. I was murdered by a Nazi nun. She was literally a Nazi nun. When those guys were talking about Ratline, she was actually a person who killed people. She would strangle people in the death camps. And she was a big woman. And she went to the Catholic Church, and they put her in a grammar school to teach children. And I irritated her to the point where she tried, she choked me, crushed my larynx, broke my jaw, broke the orbit in this eye, broke the little stirrup bone in my ear. And all that did was change it brought me from my 5 senses to 6 and above. I mean, that, I had my head in a clamp for a year, had my mouth wired shut for 3 months. And it took a long time for my esophagus to get back to normal where I could talk. And once I could kind of talk, I didn't talk. And I didn't talk for a number of years. And then when I started to try and talk, I stuttered pretty serious. And that's why I was sent to that seminary, that Maryknoll Seminary. And these guys were not, they were priests, but they were like saints. And they weren't scholastics, they were scholars. So I was in this place that had 20 of these guys, and they were all like published like up the kazoo and were the best psychologists, mathematicians, linguists, you name it. They were and I lived with them, right? I ate meals with them, and it was teaching me 24/7, right? I learned Greek and Latin, and I couldn't speak it. And that's why I speak a little, I speak very well, but I still have, it's not a stutter. It's more I don't even know what to call it, an aberration, because of the way the lung goes through my larynx and my esophagus. It's not like it does with everybody else. But that's a good thing because I can basically, I have to talk, manipulate the frequencies of my voice. And so that's what helps me, I don't want to say hypnotize, but connect with the listener, right? It's what makes me a griot. Griots do that. Not only do they have the story, not do they only have the insight, but they have a way to vocalize it. And that's why I loved Herbert's Dune because it talks about that, when they would speak and like blow things up. I mean, that was logos. If you look that word up in a Greek dictionary, logos, it's the power of speech, right? The force of speech. And when they said, the pen is mightier than the sword, they were really talking about before the pen, people spoke, right? Logos. Plato didn't write this shit down; he spoke it. Because people who came after that wrote what he said. But we have to give reason that they can understand, get their heads around. Yes, exactly. And that's why I'm a storyteller. Because I just keep telling the story and throwing in all kinds of things off the side. And it it kind of distracts them and also informs them in a way that isn't the same old same. So they don't just disregard it. And even when people say, "Oh, you know what you're talking about," I still get into their heads. That's what made me a good shrink. So these guys are really great. Fisherman's Friends. It's my little commercial. They should pay me for this. But these are the best cough drops in the universe. They are the nuclear weapons of cough drops. They're not candy. They really do take what ails you in your throat. And so I got these maybe when I first started. I was living in Ireland, and a fisherman actually said, "You got a thing in your throat there. Try these." And they're the only thing that works. So all the stuff that ever happens to you in your life, in this body, you're young, you break this, you hurt that. I mean, I came back from death a number of times, and hey, I'm okay. And that's what kind of catches up with you as you get old. That's why you have to be aware and conscious. The only way I'm a freaking alive today is that I'm conscious of what's wrong with me, and I don't just listen to, I took me a long time to find my doctors who take care of me, because I was looking for guys and gals who thought and were empathetic and listened to, so I'm the doctor. I had this one doctor, he gave me this one medicine, and it was killing me. I said, I can't take this stuff. I got to find a different. I'm your doctor. I know better than you. I said, yeah, but I'm living in this body, and every time I take that crap, it's killing me. So I'm not taking it. And fuck you, I'm getting another doctor. So I did, and it took me a while to find the people who now take care of me. And they take care of me because they love me, and I love them, and I help them more than they help me, right? And so they value keeping me alive. So that's what I tell you guys. Do not work for anyone unless they need you more than you need them. You need to get into that. If you're going to deal with the illusion world, you'll have to do it from a stand of where you're not believing the crap they're telling you, first off, and that you are navigating yourself by being neutral, as Miss Ellie says, and get to that place where whoever you're working for needs you more than you need them. Bingo, you can do whatever you want. They're going to pay you way more than anybody else, and you will be able to use. And why I spent so much time in universities, so they have, Cornell had their own atom smasher. They had facilities I just couldn't afford, but they'd let me play with. So, I mean, if I have any, I don't like to use the word addiction, but the thing that kind of drives me is access to understanding the situation. And that's kind of why I work. Not because I have to. I've, shown myself I can live very comfortably on $400 a month. when I was making like, 90 grand for 3 weeks work, all that did was got me fat. Got me diabetes and neuropathy and aplastic anemia and Charcot legs and a bunch of other things. I ain't got no bones in my feet. My bone doctor does not. I used to have to wear metal clamps on my legs and walk with a walker. Now I don't. And all of these, they just like, I haven't grown any new bone. It's mush down there, in my ankle. But it still supports me, because I do my Tai Chi and Qigong pretty every day, and I meditate every day, and I walk as much as I can, and I rest as much as I can. And so that's how it is. You have to be aware, and you have to have intent, and you have to serve love's co-creation. Then you're going to have a great life. And that's why you guys, Miss Ellie and Fish, you both have a great life, right? Because you were doing it before you met me, and I've just been a good example, right? I'm a moron who does my best, and I every day and every way and every day and every way I do my best. It's not perfect, but I do my best to serve love's co-creation, and so do you all, and so say we all. Ho! It's been a blast, guys. Yep. So I'm gonna do maybe one tomorrow morning and another one in the evening. Now that I have the access to the internet, I'm just gonna keep doing this. And I would suggest that you guys, if you can, put this. If you can download this stuff on thumb drives or your hard drive or any of that, because I've had friends who've had really good, YouTube shows and other platform shows, and the powers that shouldn't be have taken them away. Like my good friend Max Igon of Crow House. I don't even know where he is. He was out of Australia. No idea what happened to him. And my other good friend, Cliff High. He was the first guy. He said, "Hey, something's going on in China," and he kind of raised up the flag in around October of 2019, right? And then once it started, being real, he really laid it down exactly what it was, and YouTube took him right off. Just got rid of him, and then he went on other platforms, and those platforms took him off, and then he changed his whole, because everything was run by algorithms. So whenever he was talking about any of that, they had, the X marked the spot for him. And what he did, he turned everything sideways and he started talking about normies and woo-woos, right? And he again described exactly what was going on without having to use any buzzwords. But then they made all his new words into things the algorithm would take down. So it was. So that's why I do this shamanic show, because it fits within their category. Now when I first started doing this, I got contacted by Google and said, "Oh wow, you're really great because you guys watch these shows like it's now an hour and 48 minutes. Maybe somewhere between 60 and 30 people will watch it, and 10 of you guys or maybe 30% of the audience, whenever, watches it for the whole thing. And so if I do, an hour and 48 minutes, if I have 10 people watching it for that amount of time, it shows total watch time, like, 20 hours, for an hour and 40 minutes, And then what's interesting, when I go back the next day and see it on my channel, landing there, it'll say, like right now, it shows about 30 of you guys are watching. Not, there's some weirdies, it like breaks you down, because there can be a lot of people watching, but if they're not on the chat, it doesn't show that, there are a lot of different things that, and on my little bar up there, I can only see, I have to go out of the channel and look at all of the information. But on my bar, I get just a little bit of what's going on. But anyway, it'll say like I'll have maybe 18 by the end of the show. I'll have 18 thumbs up. Give me more thumbs up, guys. Give me more thumbs up. And it'll show, about 30 to 60 people watch the show pretty regularly. And then the next day when I go back, it'll say I had like 3 thumbs up and 10 thumbs down, and only 4 people watched. It's like, okay. And my friend Buddy from New Zealand said, that shows you're really doing something right. So they're not getting rid of me per se, but that's only because some few of you watch it. But I'm more interested and appreciative, and I appreciate you all by quality, just by this chat here. This chat here has made me smile all night long. And by that chat, I can read your energy, and that's, when I go, before I do this, I pray and do some other things where I am infusing into this show shamanic energy. That's a worldview of love's co-creation. And I'm seeing that in you guys. So I'm very happy, and thank you very much for being here. And I'm glad you enjoyed the show. And I'm going to, so when it's 1 hour and 52 minutes and 52 seconds, I'm going to say goodnight. So I'm just going to say, I love you. I care for you. I'm always there for you. You need anything, get a hold of me at thedudewake42@gmail. I always got your back. I feel you all. I'm here for you all. Yep. Good night. Good night. Sweet, sweet dreams we go. Dreamy dreamland we go. Good night. Good night. And every day and every way, I love you. Till tomorrow morning and tomorrow afternoon. But at least 1 show a day, if not 2. Okay? Okay. I really enjoyed tonight. Thank you very much for being here. And I'm always here for you. Do 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 dee do do do. Good night, sweet dreams. Good night, sweet dreams. Good night, sweethearts. I love you. Bye bye.